I encountered that song in year 2 of The Leftovers. The Leftovers was a very interesting 3-year series, I think it was 3 years, in which 3% of the world's population randomly disappeared at 4 o'clock some afternoon. And what happened in the world when your children vanished, or your husband vanished, and there's one little town where no one vanished, and it became kind of like a mecca. And it's a story about cults, and very, very fascinating story. And Iris DeMint was they played that over the credits. So, dear friends, it is Sunday, the 24th of October, 2021. My primary identifier is Robert Beatty. He, him, cisgendered male. Great, 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 and so on for 128 or 150, grandson of the Buddha. Hello to Jim. I saw you come aboard. I don't see you now. Oh, no, where are you? I can't see you.
I'm over here.
Over here. Oh, there you are. Okay, I'm going to move you. I'm going to move you up where I can keep an eye on you, see if you're causing trouble. There we go. So, I'd like to begin today by calling to the altar of our hearts Ruth Dennison, whose inspiration still lights up my life. We're here to do something really simple. The core teachings of the Buddha are just not complicated at all. And I want to start with a Rumi poem this morning. It's a little long, so I'll just read it once, which means you have to pay attention. Can't count on it being repeated. It's called The City of Saba. Once, in the city of Saba, there was a glut of wealth. Everyone had more than enough. Even the bath stokers wore gold belts. Huge grape clusters hung down on every street and brushed the faces of the citizens. No one had to do anything. You could balance an empty basket on your head and walk through any orchard, and it would fill by itself with overripe fruit dropping into it. Stray dogs strayed in lanes full of thrown-out scraps with barely a notice. The lean desert wolf got indigestion from the rich food. Everyone was fat and satiated with all the extra. There were no robbers. There was no energy for crime or for gratitude. And no one wondered about the unseen world. The people of Saba felt bored with just the mention of prophecy. They had no desires of any kind, maybe some idle curiosity about miracles, but that was it. This over-richness is a subtle disease. Those who have it are blind to what's wrong and deaf to anyone who points it out. The city of Saba can never be understood from within itself. But there is a cure, an individual medicine, not a social remedy. Sit quietly and listen for a voice within that will say, be more silent. As that happens, your soul starts to revive. Give up talking in your positions of power. Give up the excessive money. Turn toward the teachers and prophets who don't live in Saba. They can help you to grow sweet again and fragrant and wild and fresh and thankful for any small event. There is a cure, an individual medicine, not a social remedy. Sit quietly and listen for a voice from within that will say, be more silent. As that happens, your soul starts to revive. Give up talking in your positions of power. Give up the excessive money. Turn toward the teachers and prophets who don't live in Saba. They can help you to grow sweet again and fragrant and wild and fresh and thankful for any small event. Thankful for any small event. This is an ancient tradition. 2,600 years, which of course in planetary time is negligible. But something happened 2,600 years ago when Siddhartha Gautama, an ordinary human being, just like us, had an experience in which he woke up. And then he spent the rest of his life teaching how he did that, so that other people, us, could have the same experience. So in honoring that tradition, I like to sing this little song, The Refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And I invite you to join in if you want. Stay muted, though it makes it impossible if you come unmuted. And it's not just a little song. It's not just a chant. It's a reminder. And I should turn this on. There we go. It's a pointer. There are so many options of what we can do in this life. I just intermittently participated in a 5-day Buddhist conference, and oh my, there are so many directions a person could go. I take refuge in the Buddha, not in a religious sense. I take refuge in the Buddha as that which is awake, that which is conscious. I take refuge in the Dharma and that's what the way things are, so that I can practice and realize the way things actually are. And I take refuge in the Sangha for support, for inspiration, and the Sangha of this group, the Sangha of this lineage through U Ba Khin and Ruth Denison, and the Sangha of all life. We belong here. You belong here. You're part of life. You are the earth breathing. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya. I want to guide us for the first little period here in a very different strategy of practice. In 1979, I was able to go to Burma for 1 week. I was with the Lewis and Clark Overseas Program for 5 months, and it was a free travel week. My wife at the time, Kathleen, had a teacher from San Francisco who was a devotee of Tangpulu Sayadaw, who was kind of like the Dalai Lama of Burmese Buddhism at the time. He was a man who at age 12 went into a cave and spent 28 years there. And then he came out and became Tangpulu, which was the location, and Sayadaw which means respected elder, teacher, great teacher. I met him when he was 82. He spent every day from 7:30 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night with a brief an hour off at lunch. He spent every day, 7 days a week, meeting with the people of Rangoon. They stood in line, they came in, he counseled them, they cried with him. I had the opportunity, I had a translator who translated what people were saying, and it was things like, my husband is working with the phone company and he's away in Mandalay and I miss him so much and he's got another 3 years, and he would speak the Dharma to them. And he made the time for this young Westerner to teach me this practice. For the first day, he said, practice seeing. So I invite us now, just for a little while, not a day, but having your eyes open, know that you're seeing. You might even say the word in the mind, seeing. And then the mind wanders, come back to seeing. And it's okay to look around, seeing, and know that you're seeing. 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 So that's the practice for the rest of the day until bed. Seeing. No mindfulness of breathing, just seeing. On day 2, I had my morning interview, and he asked me, did you fall asleep on an in-breath or an out-breath? And did you wake up on an in-breath or an out-breath? And how many bites of lunch did you have yesterday? And then he said, today, your meditation object is hearing. Be aware of hearing. Notice it's a different channel. Hearing. There might not be much noise around you. This voice will, of course, come in. But if there's nothing else, there's that high-pitched ringing that's in everyone's ears. Achan Samedo calls it the sound of silence. It's an artifact of hearing. 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 Mindfulness remembers the intention of which object to take. Hearing. Hearing. Notice, of course, the mind will go off into fantasies. Samsara. Delusion. Hearing. So for the rest of the day, we could be aware of hearing. Or, what posture is the body in? For most of us, it looks like it's sitting. Be aware of the shape of your body. Sitting. Sitting. And it's not, I am sitting. It's not a story about sitting. It's just knowing this is sitting. Morning number 4. Tangpulu Sayadaw said to me, through the interpreter, which was very problematic, touching. Feel where your buttocks make contact with the chair. Touching. Feel where your left foot touches the floor. Touching. Feel where your right foot touches the floor. If your hands are touching each other, touching. Feel your lips touching each other. Feel the touch of clothing against the skin. And one can pick 5 or 7 points, or 3, or 1. And then there's rotation. Touch, 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 touch. And you create a pattern, and then you go between those objects. Touch, touch, touch. And you could do touch and then stay for a minute. Touch, stay there for a minute. All day. Touching. And then on day 5, Tangpulu Sayadaw said, your practice today is seeing, hearing, sitting, touching. Seeing. And if your eyes are closed, then seeing is just the darkness of non-sight. Though there could be an inner image, and that would be seeing of a sort, but seeing, and then hearing, sitting, touching, seeing, hearing, sitting, touching. It's work, isn't it? Seeing, hearing, sitting, touching, this is a practice that can be done while driving. Of course, you never close the seeing door, but you remember to be mindful. A great deal of what passes for mindfulness in our time has nothing to do with mindfulness. Mindfulness is this mysterious capacity of awareness, of knowing. It's that which knows. It is that in which all experience occurs. It's not a theory. It's not a doctrine even. It's this experience of knowing, seeing, hearing, sitting, touching. And if you'd like, you could continue in this practice in this way. And as you go through life, you might decide, well, I'm going to listen to music now. I'm going to be aware of hearing. Or we could take up our familiar mindfulness of inbreathing and outbreathing. It's quite tranquilizing. Though it's the same practice, it's just a different object. The practice is notice the in-breath and out-breath. We're not adding anything to the awareness of the breath. We're not adding any concepts to it. It's just sensations. Each breath has a beginning. It has a middle, it has an ending. The conditioned tendency to fall into trance is very potent, isn't it? And this capacity of awakeness, awakening, comes from a much deeper place than the trances. But thinking about it does nothing. It's another trance. Instead, let us be here with the breath, with bare attention. Each moment offers an invitation to be here, to be awake. If the centrifugal energies of mind, the 5 hindrances, for instance, the wanting, craving, desiring, or disliking, pushing against, or restlessness, agitation, and worry, or sloth and torpor, sleepy dullness, or doubt, despair, dispiritedness, depression, anxiety. If these are in blossom, we can help with some concentration by adding in rising, falling. Pointing at the simplicity of breathing in and breathing out as life sensations. How real dare we let the breath be? How fully dare we incarnate? To awaken to and become mindful of this breath means to awaken to the whole experience of being human. Each breath has its beginning, its dance, its vanishing. And this is why we cultivate metta at the same time, love. I aspire to love and accept this moment, this that I take to be myself right now. And when I discover myself to be hurting, and there's plenty of dukkha to go around, I intend to hold myself in sweet compassion. This, of course, then potentiates holding the people I live with in sweet compassion. Friends in sweet compassion. Everyone I encounter in sweet compassion. Because as the mind clears, we will see the suffering all around us. And please now let's notice seeing. There may be no seeing. The eyes may be closed. Seeing. Hearing. Sitting. Sitting. Touching. Touch, 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 touch. Brilliantly aware of the entirety of the body. And allowing awareness to open in the hands, particularly in the fingers. And then in the lips and the cheeks and the eyes. The eyes as sensations. And now noticing the intention, the prompted intention to open the eyes. And notice the effort that's required following the intention. And be really attentive to the fact of seeing as it is born. Seeing. The fact of seeing, not the objects of seeing. The objects are pretty fine. But the knowing of the fact of seeing. Seeing and hearing. Hearing. Hey, Jim, will you have a look at the chat before we go on? I'm going to make a couple of announcements first. I was busy on the chat. The first link is the registration form for my class on what the Buddha taught. And I'll be basing it in, of course, the teachings of the Buddha, but as written in that beautiful book, What the Buddha Taught by Walpola Rahula. It's really a classic of our time, and written in the 50s, I think, actually. And if you really want to understand the framework in which this practice occurs, that'd be a great way to do it. 8 weeks spaced over about 7 or about 10 different weeks. I've got a few gaps I have to have. So that's there as a possibility. Oh, and remember this. There's always a suggested donation on all the classes and things. And there's also the possibility to create a scholarship fee for yourself. And and we've had long conversations about it. It's whatever makes sense to you, whatever you can actually afford, and so and support the center, and it works. So please never feel like you can't do something at PIMC because of cost. There's also always on the registration form an opportunity, if you'd like to pay more, to offer more, to support someone who is taking a scholarship. You can do that too, and people make use of that. It's great. So that's the first thing on the list. And then there's Donna for PIMC. If you'd like to have the delight of this in supporting the Dharma, please follow that link and you can make a contribution. And the best thing for us, for the center, is to set up a monthly contribution, because it comes when you forgot to come, which is a good thing. And then if you never saw, or you'd like to see again, the video that we created for the ramp fundraising 2.5 years ago, the link on Vimeo is that. And then there's also a link for Candle Summer's first and third Sundays of the month meditations. So that's the announcement section of things. Anything? Oh, let's repeat this too. I am leaving this afternoon as soon as I get the garlic planted. That's the garlic is a month late now, but I'm going to get it in. As soon as I get that planted, I will be off to the beach, where I will be going into silence for the next 6 days. And it's an unusual retreat in that my teacher, Matt Flickstein, will be Zooming in each day. For me, he comes at 11 o'clock. So I haven't had a chance to talk with him. I guess it's been several years, actually. So that'll be very interesting. But I'm looking forward to the quiet and the putting away the watch and just going outside of time for a while.
Robert, the Vimeo link takes us to a Ruth Dennison
The
page.
link for the remodel, the link, Kimberly, is, I think that's the link that takes you to the video, which is the fundraising video we created when we started this project that began as just a ramp and bathroom and restrooms. But then the city got a hold of the drawings and they said, oh, there are offices down here. And then we had a fire life safety review, and now we're making the building seismically safe ultimately.
Robert, this is Danny. I'm saying the link is not working. The link goes somewhere else. The link, when I clicked on it, takes us.
The link you sent is about Ruth Dennison, Robert.
To just
Yes.
think a kind thought. What would the kind thought be?
I don't think he can hear us.
May you be really happy. And just pick someone. It's a nice thing. It's very touching to me.
We can't hear. You can't hear us.
I think Jim and Eileen are doing. Anyway.
We can't hear. You can't hear us.
Hear me? Am I not being heard? Can you hear me?
Yes, but you can't hear us.
Oh, the link does not work. Alas, all things have their moment. Damn. Another time.
James
Jim,
to
are you
Robert,
good to go?
can you hear
Let
me?
Get my head thing in here.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, I see. I can't hear. I was not hearing.
There's a Ruth Dennison link to Vimeo, Robert.
Oh, how funny.
It's not the ramp. It's Ruth Dennison.
Well, just as well.
It's the Ruth Dennison ramp.
Yes. The construction is going very well. The sheetrock guys are coming in on tomorrow, to do the sheetrock, the ceiling in the living room, and Doug Ross, bless his heart, Doug got a wild idea. And we were over there last night checking it out, that the baseboards in the living room are all going to be replaced because they're in pretty bad shape. And it'll take a lot of work to get them to be paintable even. So he's going to do a bunch of that. That room is going to be so gorgeous. It's going to be amazing. And let me see here. Then a week from tomorrow, Mish Makazi will be there. Mish, are you here? I saw you earlier. There you are. Doing wonders with paint, and then following her will be the new lights, and by the middle of December we should be having our re-entry to the building. That's the plan. It's a lot. They're doing a lot. It's quite amazing. I have such respect for PNC Construction, and Kim Knox, our project manager, is just an amazing human being. How one person can keep that many details in their consciousness, I have no idea. Okay, Jim.
Robert,
please do some movement, and I'll be back in a little while to give a reflection on bare attention and mindfulness. Coming home.
There's a question about the meditation tomorrow morning, and I will be here tomorrow morning. And there's a whole set of people lined up for the rest of the week. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if he can hear me at all.
I can hear you fine.
Okay. So join me if you will, and I'll put a spotlight on this camera. All right, here we stand. Standing is like this. Sensations in the feet. Bringing our hands to the rib cage on the side. Breathing, feel this, hands on the ribs. And here we stand sort of like with a balloon expanding towards the ribs. It feels like this. Then releasing that, letting the hands just relax down. The ribs are still moving. Feel like this. And the breath can be brought into rhythm. The arms, raising the arms feels like this. Breathing in, breathing out. The hands feel like this. The wrists feel like this. Then we drop into knowing the sensations on one side and then the other. Feet, hips, shoulder, knowing the sensations in the hand, in the feet, the hips, the shoulder, seeing, hearing, sort of stepping, walking in place, stepping. What are the sensations of stepping? Releasing all pattern to just standing. Life in the hands, life in the feet, seeing, hearing, stepping forward, just a half step, rocking back. Sensations in the heel. One heel is the dominant sensation when the weight's above it. The other heel takes the weight. Rocking forward and backward sets up a pattern. It's like this. Lifting the hands, adding a press with the forward movement, and a reception, pulling in gently. Set the pattern, forget the words. It's like this. Rocking, seeing, hearing, fabric touching skin, shifting, breathing out as you move forward, breathing in as you move back. A rhythm pattern is established. And then my words are no longer needed. Release. Seeing. Turning. Stepping. Pressing. Rocking back, breathing in. Releasing the breath forward. Dropping the words. Knowing. Movement. Knowing. Sight. Seeing. Pattern continues. Hearing. hips, shoulders, feet. It's like this, shifting. Feeling the fabric of clothes. Sounds far away, sounds close in. Can you find the color blue? Seeing blue. Eyes scanning, coming back to standing. Can you see the color orange? Knowing, seeing. Hearing. Fabric on the skin. Breathing. Sinking, interlocking the fingers. Rising, turning the hands over, pressing down. Finding a pattern, breathing in, turning the palms up, pressing down. Touching, fingers touching. Shoulders. Feet. Knees. Wrists. Turning. Turning. Releasing. Standing. Attending to pressure on the feet. Life in the knees. Hips. Shoulders. Neck. Sinking one more time, opening to the side, set up a pattern. Lifting, releasing. Breathing in. Feel the ribs. Knowing the life in the feet, in the knees, skin touched by fabric, shoulders, release. Bear attention to the life in the body, step by step, point by point. Feel the palms come together. Feel the gratitude in your heart. Practicing as a group, bringing mindfulness and compassion to a living, standing body. We'll see you next time. I'll see some of you tomorrow morning. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jim.
Yes, sir. I just noticed Frank's name.
I did.
Can't find him.
I think I saw that. Oh, there he is. Hello, Frank.
Okay, nice to see you. Thank you, thank you.
He made a little mask sign at you. I know it's really a good thing that I'm going on retreat because I'm really drawn toward silence at this point. I watched a short presentation by Sharon Salzberg at the conference this last couple of days, and she spoke about faith. She wrote a book recently about faith, and I don't know that I'll remember the stages of faith that she described. One was bright faith, and that's like when you first find something and yes, I'm into it. And then there's, I don't know, the next level, but it's quite a lot quieter, but it's pretty solid. And then the third stage is where there gets to be something which is unshakable. It becomes one of the pillars of one's understanding of the world. And it got me thinking, what is that for me? And lo and behold, it's what I'm always the most interested in teaching, and where I rest, I guess. Way back on my second retreat I ever did. Every day my teacher would start my interview by asking, "So Robert, what are you learning today about anicca, dukkha, and anatta? What are you learning about impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and the fact that the self is a process?" That's a long time ago. That's 47 years ago. So those three characteristics of existence persist as objects of great interest to me. They're not objects, they're relationships in a way. Truths, maybe. So I'll come back to that. And another thing that I rest in is the mystery and miracle of mindfulness. As I was setting up here this morning, I got here an hour early, and my computer said it wanted to do an update. So I said, oh gosh, I've got an hour. So I clicked the button, and it took until 10 minutes to the hour. It took a long time to do its thing. Major operating system upgrade. But I went and I sat over in my chair over there. And something became really obvious again, which was that there would be trance state for a long time, maybe minutes even. And then something really strange would happen. And it would be that mindfulness asserted itself. It wasn't something I did. It did itself. And then instead of being embedded in these thoughts, there was knowing of thinking. I've been cultivating that practice of waking up from the dreams for half a century now. Half a century. And I think that's the way home. I think that discovery of that, perhaps what the Buddha discovered that and the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, was the single most important discovery ever made by human beings. If we cannot become aware of thinking, we are the thoughts. If we can't become aware of thinking, we can be conditioned with any ideology. So we practice this really simple thing to sit down, choose a primary object. Could be breathing, could be seeing, hearing, sitting, touching, or seeing, hearing, breathing in, breathing out. I sat in on several, 3, 4 maybe, 4 different guided mindfulness quote meditations in the last 4 days, 5 days. And was I startled? I don't know if I was startled, but I was struck by the fact that the meditations that I listened to had nothing to do with mindfulness. They had to do with visualizations, with fantasies, with imagining a world free from prejudice, with imagining a world free from nuclear weapons, and all very reasonable imaginations. But they weren't mindfulness. Because mindfulness is something specific. Wow, I'm having a rush of feeling. Mindfulness is the great gift of awakening that comes to us straight from the Buddha. And it's ours. We are capable of it. We are, as human beings, it's in, for most of us anyway, it's in the realm of possibility. Oops, someone needs to mute. So what is it? Please become aware that you're seeing. Notice that the body's sitting here. Seeing. And it's not thinking about seeing. It's not writing a discourse to yourself about seeing. It's just the fact that actually something utterly bizarre is happening, which is seeing. There's a term used in the meditation teachings. It's called bare attention. And in bare attention, we are. There is awareness of the actual experience at the sense doors. It's not interpreted. It's not a thought about it. It's just there's awareness and seeing, or awareness and hearing. And they co-arise together and they disappear together. I'm remembering an experience, funny that comes up right now, but from quite a long time ago on retreat. I was quite deep on this particular retreat, quite concentrated, and I was sitting in a place in the garden, and it became obvious that there were 2 images. One was created by the right eye, and the other was created by the left eye. And the right eye was, and still is, my right eye has much more color and richness. It's blurrier, but there's much more color, depth. The left eye is clearer, but it's not black and white, but it's more. And to sit, to sit with that knowing. Without any evaluation or this is better than that. It's such a relief. You know, there's a common meditation instruction which is practice with no goal. If there's a goal, if I'm trying to get to be somewhere else, then what it behooves me to look at is the desire, the wanting to be somewhere else. Because that can be observed with bare attention. So I would say that I have, there's that I again, a lot of faith in simple bare attention. It's not religious in the least. It doesn't require believing anything. It's watching, as I did sitting over in my chair. There was a lot of drifty, dreamy, and then it's gone. And I think I believe this too. Without the practice of mindfulness in some form or another, there's lots of different names for it, of course. Every tradition has a different name. But without some practice, which has to do with awakening from the trance states, we're doomed to just continue living the same old lives. So it's very, this could sound sort of small, but it's a true paradigm shift. And what about things like, for example, to be able to perceive thoughts as thoughts, feelings as feelings, pleasant and unpleasant as pleasant and unpleasant, to actually have that skill is the foundation of good communication. Right? To be in conversation with someone and they say something which is perhaps aggressive or perceived as aggressive, and it sets off a feeling, and then there's the impulse to speak. If we can't see that, if we don't have enough awareness, if we don't have enough mindfulness to perceive that process happening, we will react in the same old way. There's no way we can intervene. If someone says or does something that is threatening in some way, the organism goes quickly to fight flight, and then we want to fight. With mindfulness, as Ruth Denison put it, darling, once you have the Dharma, you can no longer get away with yourself. I have a diagram. I don't know whether I want to go to it or not. I think I don't. So we will certainly cover this terrain in the What the Buddha Taught class in depth. But I want to say this, perhaps. I'm also very convinced of the truth and efficacy of the Four Noble Truths. I'm more and more convinced all the time. The truth of suffering. Have you noticed? Birth, sickness, old age, decay, and death. Having experiences you don't want to have, not having the experiences you do want to have, being with person or persons you don't want to be with, and not being with the person or persons you want to be with. All day long. I don't quite like this. My back hurts. This is that. Is that really true? I think it really is. It's truer and truer to me. And there's a fantasy, which is the advertising fantasy and the consumption leads to happiness fantasy, that says that's not true. You can have enough nice experiences. You can have enough new stuff. And it'll really make you happy, enduringly happy. And we make ourselves wrong, I think, wrong and bad. Clearly I should be happy, but I'm not. Why not? Well, maybe I don't know, maybe I need a new this or a new that. And then there's the second ennobling truth, which is that sense of lack, that sense of there's a problem, comes from our own minds, that we create that. Because the separate self is unstable, and it wants to get to stability, it wants to get to satiety, and so it leans into the future. I want to become something, or it pushes against the unpleasant and grabs onto the pleasant. And if I can just do this enough, we have this very deep unconscious belief, then I'll be well, then I'll be happy. And the Buddha taught, well, with mindfulness, you can actually start watching dukkha and tanha, these first two. You can actually see them in action. Without mindfulness, we can't see a thing. Without mindfulness, all we have is theories. So if we want to carry out the experiment that the Buddha proposed and wake up ourselves like he did, we have to develop the tool. And that's mindfulness. And the other enlightenment factors. And moral and ethical behavior. There's a lot of pieces to it. But without the mindfulness, we're dead in the water. And then there's the third ennobling truth, which is the great discovery of nirvana or nibbana, which is that it's possible. It's happening all the time. If the suffering is happening and the craving that causes the suffering is happening, if we really study both of those, something mysterious and alchemical happens, which is that the suffering stops. And we have equanimity, we have contentment. We may still be, probably we will be, in plenty of pain. And there'd be plenty of disappointments in life, I mean, of course. But we can stop suffering about it. Which means that we become capable of actually loving, because we're not desperately trying to get rid of something we can't get rid of through consumption or rejection. And then there's the Eightfold Path, which is the elegant model of consciousness and training and moral and ethical behavior that sets us free. So I'm pretty convinced about them increasingly. So we have then, how do we go about carrying out that experiment? Well, there's a couple of hypotheses. One is the Four Noble Truths describe reality. Is this true? Can I really see this? Can I know this? And then there's the hypotheses of nothing lasts. Is this true? Is it really true? That's the delusion of enduringness I find to be really remarkable. I'm sitting in this lovely little house. It's got its own heat. I look out, I have 3 different windows. I live in a luxurious location. We have a beautiful backyard, private. There's trees. Quite a nice little house. In it, there's 85 houseplants. Jennifer went insane with COVID. Takes her 2.5 hours to water her plants. I live with this person, Jennifer. Extraordinary. I have my dogs, Pluto and Dobby. I have my relationships with you. PIMC, this building and community we're bringing back to life. It's all going to go away. Strange thought, isn't it? Is it true? In my first marriage, we had a really nice house. I put in a huge hardwood floor. I mean, a lot. And I said to people, well, this is my last house. This is where I will live till I die. Either I'll go to the nursing home from here or I'll die here. And I thought that wood floor was mine. I took such pride in it. And then there was the day when she said, I'm divorcing you. Shit, who saw that coming? I didn't. Because divorce wasn't on my pull-down menu. I'd still be there, I'll bet. Depressed and suicidal, but probably still be there. But is it true? Is it true that everything is anicca? Well, it's one thing to believe that. It's another thing to go into meditation and to carry out the test with mindfulness. So here I am. I'm sitting here and I'm breathing in and breathing out. My intention is to stay with the breath. And then gone. I'm getting texts. Oh, nothing to do with this. Gone, and then mindfulness comes in. Gone, and mindfulness comes in. And so that with mindfulness, we examine at more and more subtle levels the arising and passing away of everything. So we carry out the experiment, and it gets confirmed thousands, millions of times maybe. And then dukkha, that's anicca, the test of anicca. Then there's the test of dukkha. Is it true that nothing really quite satisfies? Now, there's obvious, there's the dukkha, suffering of sickness and loss and pain. But what about the dukkha that's there in the middle of eating a beautiful meal? Or having a fine conversation? Or is it true that that doesn't actually result in enduring satisfaction too? Is that true? That's the test, isn't it? And then the exquisite teaching, the third characteristic of existence, place that we really get hung up. Anatta, not soul. How can we possibly test that so that it's not some doctrine? I believe in anatta. Well, sitting over in that chair a little while ago, I made the intention to stay conscious. And it lasted seconds, maybe, a few breaths. And then there's this fantasy life. And then that life ends, and then I, subjective, I is back, awareness is back. What a strange thing. So the Four Noble Truths start making really a lot more sense when observed mindfully. And the three characteristics of existence seem really to be more and more true. We can then take up the four foundations of mindfulness. And so we learn to pay attention to the body. The body is moving. The body's making contact. It's the body. It does this. It feels like this. And then the body has sense doors: seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, feeling body, the sensing body, and the mind. And those sense contacts are pleasant, unpleasant, or not yet decided. They have a valence to them. Now, for some of you that haven't heard all this before, these could be a lot, but I hope you can bear with the pieces that just don't really resonate. And then we can also pay attention to thoughts, to mood, to mind. You notice how one day the mind is... when was it? It was yesterday morning, I think. I had so much anxiety. It was very interesting, odd morning. It had somewhat to do with the conference, because I kept thinking I should be at the conference. There was nothing I wanted to watch. And I'm so sick of doing conference things on Zoom. But I had this sense of, well, I should be there, and what am I missing? And I better. And it was so strange. It brought up all kinds of things about skipping class in college. And But mental states. What I did ultimately, or maybe not ultimately, was I sat for a while and realized, wow, there's this that I should be going to every one of these, and I don't have to go to every one. But it was like a childhood conditioning. And then there's the fourth foundation of mindfulness, which is the five hindrances and the seven enlightenment factors and all these other phenomena that occur. Now, that's a lot of things to pay attention to, so we don't have to pay attention to all of them, but they all have something in common. And the clearer we can get about observing them, the clearer the realization comes. They all are anicca, dukkha, and anatta. In fact, I'm very grateful. Matt Flickstein was the first person who said this to me. Robert, why do you think we learn how to observe the four foundations of mindfulness? Because one by one, we discover it's not me. This body is not who I am. These feelings are not who I am. These thoughts are not who I am. Well, if that's the case, who am I? Who am I? And I think who I am is the one who knows, is that which knows, the Buddha. But we do this, we do all this training, and we learn how to really become alive, to feel the feelings and to know our emotions and to face into the trauma of the life so far and do all this healing work as well. And it's all with one goal in mind, which is to realize, Oh, right. I'm none of this stuff. And in fact, if I were to go Tibetan for a moment, this is all a dream. It's all going to go away. And this then ever so slowly in my experience, but sometimes in quantum leaps, it leads to less and less demanding that things be a certain way, and therefore we can become more loving and patient, and we can accept our neurotic mind for what it is. And then, of course, the neurotic mind of our loved ones. So back to mindfulness. For several years, I did workshops for mental health professionals. I actually had the privilege of teaching between 300 and 400 therapists in Portland, a 1 day or 2 day retreat on mindfulness. This was before mindfulness became a commodity. And I had, and of course, in order for to be continuing ed credits, there had to be a goal statement. I forget what they're called, learning objectives, because you have to have them for continuing ed. And one of the learning objectives was that I hoped every person in the group would have at least one moment of mindfulness and know it. Because it's quite possible to stay in thinking all the time. I mean, how many years of education have we all had, or many of us, and how have we been drilled that the way to freedom and happiness is through thinking? I'm going to compare and contrast our way to liberation, and that's not it, is it? And I have to time check. Oh, good, I got a few moments. So this is a song of mindfulness. Let's be awake. Let's create the conditions like we do when we sit to be mindful. But let's do the dishes mindfully. Let's hearing. There's a quite a loud sound. There's a plane going overhead. Notice hearing. I noticed the other day that one of those monsters was going overhead, and I was glad. I thought, well, I'm glad it's going over. It's not landing on me. That could ruin one's whole day, I think. So I hope that's coherent. I really, I'm going off to the beach where they're having rain and flooding, which should be interesting. I'll get there. But all I'm going to be doing for this 5 days is remembering to be here with a lot less distraction. But just be here. Be here. I want to be here. Usually when I've done this in the past, I have a day or two of a lot of fatigue comes in that I've been surfing on top of. I abandon bedtimes and sleep when I need to. And I wind up, historically, I've wound up being up in the night a fair bit. But I don't think of it as insomnia. It's just that 3 o'clock in the morning is a fine time to be sitting. Because I don't have to do anything the next day, right? I can just be with the arising and passing away. So I think that's what I want to say. We have a few minutes if someone has a question or a comment. Mindfulness.
Hi, Robert. It's Roseanne. Can you hear
Roseanne,
me?
hello. I hear you fine.
Hi, I am down in Brookings, Oregon right now.
Yes.
And this could not be more timely because I busted my ass to try to get down here, and it's done nothing but have these gale force winds and pouring rain, and all of the beaches are flooded. and eroding. So all of these beautiful hikes I'd planned and days at the beach are all gone. And I think this is so timely because it once again reminds me of that not getting what I wanted or needed, and that whole getting caught up in that. And it's just very timely. It's bringing me back down to earth. And I will say I'm proud of myself that I am making the best of it. I've been hiking in the pouring rain and slipping and sliding and coming home drenched, and still being mindful on my hikes, still seeing the beauty. And so I appreciate the mindfulness so much that I can still find that beauty just even looking out the windows here and watching the branches move in the breeze. But I think it was really good that I heard this today. So I just wanted to thank you. It was perfect.
You know, there's a story, I think it's in my book. It was at one point. It's this group of people are in a hotel somewhere on the Oregon coast, and they're really bummed because they flew across the country. They finally came and they're all together, and it's raining like it can only rain in Brookings, Oregon. and everyone's really bummed, except there's this one older woman who keeps going out for walks. And she comes back and she's singing to herself, and they're a little pissed that she's what's going on with her. But finally, they say to her, you know, what's going on with you? Why are you so happy? And she said, well, it's raining, and I decided that I might as well just let it rain and have a good time anyway, because it's it was interesting she allowed the weather to be what it was.
Yeah, at one point I hiked up and there were some beautiful big redwoods, and I was drenched to the skin. The dogs were drenched to the skin, and I just looked up and watched the raindrops falling from the branches way up high and just felt them hitting my face, and so it's just, there really is beauty, even if you're a little uncomfortable here and there. So yeah, I really appreciate it.
Yay. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Hi, Robert.
It's Danny.
I was just having this, I don't know if it's an amusing thought, but when you were saying you had to wait for your computer came up and said reset, and you had to wait. I was wondering if something came up in your mind that just said, oh, I need a reset, I need a reboot, and I'm going to go coast for 5 days. A little warning that came up on us. Time to reboot, reset, retreat. It'd be nice if that came up every 5,000 miles or so.
Right. I always go 8 or 9 before I change the oil.
Yeah. But I'm glad you're getting that time.
I am. I feel very privileged to have a place so generously offered, and also to have it be part of my quote work. That
reset.
Yeah.
Hi, Robert. It's Dave Mayer.
Mr. Mayer.
I'm really excited for you with your retreat, and I'm a little jealous, but I really appreciate your both your meditation and your talk today, because it has helped orient me to what's going on in my practice. Because I am really I want to say struggling, but I don't think that's the right word, or I don't want that to be the right word, with the recognition of dukkha and the suffering, and realizing how much I hate the suffering, and knowing that the hatred of the suffering is what's causing the suffering. and that's
Right.
the focus of my work. And it was really, it just really clarified in today, especially with Jim. And Jim, absolutely nothing personal about this, because it was not me. But as I'm standing there peacefully going through the motions with you, I am watching the snark and the hateful thoughts that come up in my head about, oh, when is this going to be over? Or, oh, it's going to feel so good when I sit down. Or I don't even want to vocalize them, because they're not me. They come up out of this mind. And I was able, in your extremely cogent guidance, to see them as thoughts. And I just came to this question that says, how can I love a mind that doesn't love me? That was, because I'm trying, these thoughts, this stuff that is from way back, they happen. And I try to make space for them and to be mindful with them. But, at some point, Jesus Christ, would you just shut up? Can you just be a nice person in there? And I know I've said before, there is no war, and finding some place for all of this. But it was in that moment, with your guided meditation, Robert, and talk about mindfulness, and then and Jim, your guidance. I said, well, shit, Dave, this is the mind you got. Okay, now what? This is what's there. This is it. Oh, right. Oh, okay. Yeah. And it just kind of settled into a lovely moving forward, moving back. Thoughts would come up. Oh, look, yeah, there they are. Moving forward, moving back. I just had this, it was a wonderful experience from both of you today. I really appreciate it. And I'm grateful.
Thanks, Dave. Hey, Frank. You still there? Where'd you go? Oh, there you are. You want to pop in for a minute?
Yeah, sure. Well, I have been at this wonderful place at the sea where you are going tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was there 2 years ago, it was also raining like it can only rain, I guess, in your country. But I had the most wonderful time there. And I like I like to see you there in the next days. I'm sure it will be a very good time. And I loved your teaching today. And I can share a little bit of my day that connects to what you said. I was very happy today that I can have a personal opinion on almost everything, but I'm not stuck to it. I'm not one with my opinion, which so many people are, which causes a lot of dukkha. And so this is, I bring this back to the training that I had in the Buddha Dharma, because as you said, I also find true, only in meditation we can find out that we are more than our thoughts and opinions. And that is what I saw today.
Thank you, Frank. Any of you that would like to do a retreat with Frank and me in Germany in July of 22? We're doing a 5-day retreat together. Teaching a 5-day retreat. I'm working on my German. It's really not very good still, though, Frank.
Will it be in German or come with subtitles?
I will speak English. I think we specified that it'll be in English and not translated, right, Frank?
Yes, that's how we put it out. And the people who will come will be able to understand you. Most of the Germans are educated in your language, and we will be fine, you teaching in English.
What are the travel restrictions right now for Germany with COVID and everything? Is there any special things you have to do to get in?
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, being a German, I know more about how to get out of here than how to enter. But I think we are not as locked in as your country chose to be. You are now opening again for European visitors. I mean, just these weeks, I think it is happening. But the other way, Americans were, I think, all the time able to enter. So next year, I'm sure everybody who would like to take the journey overseas and join Robert and me, no problem.
Well, we're afternoon. Does anyone have anything else that's wanting to be spoken?
Robert,
Pamela.
I had an experience. I often don't think about impermanence, although I'm aware of it a lot. And I was having a conversation with a friend of mine that he lives downstairs, and something came up about that they were going to archive, the government was going to archive something for another 50 years or 90 years or something. And I thought, oh my gosh, I won't ever get to know this thing that they're archiving, because I will not be alive when it is brought out. And it was just this interesting, it was not a mind thing. It didn't, how do I say it? It wasn't that I thought about that. It was that I felt it in my body, that it was that I'm impermanent. And I think it might have been the first time I've ever felt it, because I don't really believe that that I'm impermanent. On some level, I don't believe that I'm impermanent. And so it was this wonderful time, a moment when I thought, oh, I am impermanent. And I don't know what else to say about it, but it was just an interesting feeling.
Thanks, Pamela.
Yeah.
Well, shall we? Let's exit with Yashakur. Yashakur comes from Islam. It's one of the 101 beautiful names of God. It means how exquisitely God, or the one, or the mystery, is manifesting to me in this moment as you. It's a wonderful reflection of a sort. It's done very simply. We bring our hands to our hearts, and then we pick someone on the screen. And this is, of course, even more poignant in person, but these are real. These little images on the screen are actually real flesh and blood people. These people all bleed when they get cut, and they love, and they hurt, and they have emotions, and they have a whole life story. So when I say Ya Shakur and look at you, how exquisitely the mystery is manifesting to me as you. And we'll do it a bunch of times, 9 or 10 times. So with in mind, what am I doing? I'm filling my heart, imagining I fill my hands with this love and this recognition of our beautiful mortality. And then I look at you, and we look at different people. And remember also, someone will be looking at you and saying that, how exquisitely the one is manifesting to me as you. So here we go. Ya Shakur.
Shakur.
And do unmute. It's more fun that way. This Ya Shakur.
Ya
Shakur.
Shakur.
Ya
Shakur.
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 Ya Shakur.
Ya
Shakur.
Shakur.
Ya
Shakur.
Ya
Shakur.
Ya
Shakur.
Ya Shakur.
Ya
Shakur.
Ya Shakur.
Ya
Shakur.
Ya Shakur.
Ya
Ya Shakur. Two more times. Ya Shakur.
Shakur.
Ya Shakur.
Shakur.
Ya Shakur.
Wow.
Ya Shakur.
Once you know that, you always know what to do at a cocktail party. You can suggest, hey everybody, let's all say that to each other.
My dog loved it. She was wagging her tail like crazy.
It's a nice energy, isn't it?
She felt it all was for her.
It was. Well, do have a lovely time. I will look forward to reappearing here next Sunday. And thank you, Jim, and the other teachers for keeping the place warm during the week. And those of you on Facebook and YouTube, I think there will not be broadcasts to that during this week.
I can make Facebook work, but I don't know about the other teachers. But I can't do YouTube, just Facebook.
Yeah, that's good. That's how it is. All right, dear friends. Till soon.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Robert. Thank
Have
you,
a good sit,
Jim.
Robert. Hope things go well.
Thank you.
Have a great Sunday, everyone. Be well, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Be well.
Namaste, all.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Have a lovely time, my friends. Enjoy the beach, Roseanne.
Thank
Don't
you.
get
I
blown
will.
away. Hello, Ryan.
Oh,
Welcome.
thank you. Have a great retreat.
I intend to. Bye-bye. Here we go. Whoops, almost. Here we go. Hi, Denise. It's just us.